The August update for Grounded looks to be a pretty significant one, with a lot of new content, quite a few tweaks and changes, which we are going to take a look at right now. Combat. Buff damage on the Spider Fang Dagger so it's on the higher end of Tier 2 weapons. Buff damage on the Spike traps significantly. Now that's good because those things were absolutely useless so far. Spiders learned a new set of attacks to choose from instead of just their basic bite. That's really cool. I can't wait to see that. Added a brief force delay between block start events, preventing the player from perfect blocking by mashing the block button. Now that is going to piss a lot of people off, but I consider that a huge combat upgrade. It's going to make you work for your blocks, and I really like that. Slightly reduce the bonus damage given by the eye patch. Now that really sucks because I really like the eye patch, but okay. Adjusting lava blade poison proclivity so it's consistent. Reducing the stun rating of two-handed weapons. Now I have noticed that it was really easy to stun with some weapons from the Ant Club and probably higher than that. The ones below that were not, so that may not be fair across the board for all two-handed weapons. We're going to have to see how that works out. Slightly reducing the amount of damage the Mint Mallet deals so it's in line with tier progression. Now the Mint Mallet was pretty OP, so that's probably a good thing. Tier 2 insects now have a cooldown after being stunned before they can be stunned again. That is maybe a little too much, just because the two-handed weapons now don't stun as often either, and then I don't know, that's gonna be kind of rough, man. It looks like it's gonna be kind of hard to get your stuns in. That's gonna be significant. Perfect blocking no longer reduces armor durability. Now I didn't even really realize that was a thing, so maybe that's kind of leveling the playing field. We're gonna have to see. That's gonna be interesting to see how that works out as well. Interface. Updated raw science UI icons to be more consistent across the game. So if they're talking about the ones that are out in the world, I have noticed they've been getting like stuck in things and half disappearing. I'm not 100% sure if that's what they're talking about though, but I have noticed a problem with that. Adding shortcuts for dropping items into the inventory screen. Drop stack is in the context menu. That is awesome because it was really a pain in the butt to move things around between in and out of your inventory. Adding deposit receive stack button on storage UIs. That is awesome because moving things in and out of storage was a really huge pain in the butt. That is great to see. Shift clicking items stacks in the storage UIs will transfer the full stack click. That again is great. That I really love to see that. That's going to save a lot of time because storage is a big part of this game, as with any survival game, and inventory control is really a big deal. Dragging an item stack onto the paper doll in the inventory screen will drop the item stack in the world. That's weird. I'm not 100% sure how that's gonna work. I have to remember to try that out. I'm really curious as to what that even is. Crafting an item with a full inventory will now notify that the item was dropped in the world. That's cool. Storage and flag marker icons have been revised, regrouped, and their colors have shifted. Okay. Requires a one-time tour of the yard to set everything back. New trail markers will now be blank by default. Oh man, I have a bunch set up, so I'm gonna have to redo them all. Slight revisions to a few scab flavor schemes. That's cool because a lot of them were kind of blah, and some of them were just plain ugly. Canteen Slurps available are displayed in the equipped item HUD element. Now, I thought that was already there. I use my canteen quite a bit, so that's pretty cool to see. But Canteen Slurps available are displayed in the equipped item HUD element. Hmm. I thought it was already there. I thought for sure it had a little number. Additional icon art, always good to see that. Added a highlight effect that appears on interactable objects when the player looks at them. This feature is controlled by the highlight object accessibility setting. Alright, so there's a whole new setting for that. And that is really cool. That's actually quite a game changer. It's going to make things easier to spot and know that you're able to interact with them, which is awesome. World revised Clover Cave layout and lighting, and moved an entrance slightly. Revised flooded area layout in southeast corner of yard. That could be very significant. It was pretty plain too. Updated house electrical socket with final non-blockout art. Interesting. It was kind of weird because you can hop up on that and it kind of just go nowhere. We'll see what happens. Items left in the world, not in a container, etc., for 48 to 72 in-game hours will eventually despawn once out of range of all players. Items loaded from a save game from version 0.1x will have all item timers start at 0 to give players a chance to react to this change. Now, so if you left anything out, and this is going to include building supplies, I believe. If you leave them just sitting on the ground, they're going to disappear. If you knocked berries out of the bush to get the leather, they're going to be gone. So, like building supplies, you have to build a pallet or a rack to store them in, or they will disappear. And that is 48 to 72 in-game hours is not very long time. That the game time moves pretty fast, so that's a very significant change. Players, keep a lookout for that. Players and critters now create ripples in the water while moving. Now, that tells me right there this is going to be a big water update. There's going to be a lot of significant changes, a lot of new creatures to mess with, and big time changes to the water area, which is cool because I already have a structure built not far from the water, but not on the water. I have a feeling if you build a structure on the water or really close to it, it's going to be destroyed by this update. I just keep an eye out for that. That might be a thing. Kids are starting to throw Archer cookies over the fence along with their billy hogs and apples. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure what this means. I don't know if it's already a thing and that's why all the stuff is in the yard because kids have been throwing it over the fence, or we're going to see this happening as a part of the new story, well, part of the story progression. So that's pretty interesting, but it's just always good to see new items, you know what I mean? Added a few footprints throughout the yard. Now that's cool, and I've been looking out at that. I have other video like showcasing that, but that tells me that there's not. We're just gonna see the footprints, and we're not gonna see what made them. I was really hoping to see humans walking around, stomping players, etc. And I have, that was just hopeful, wishful thinking, I guess. It's gonna be more like you're gonna see things that have been moved around by the humans and things they've destroyed with their by walking through the yard. But I don't think you're gonna see the humans themselves, at least not yet, anyway. Buildings. Base buildings will now be more reliably anchored when built on top of objects such as the baseball. That is great because I know a lot of people were upset with that, and the instability was kind of disappointing. That's great to see that. Palisades will no longer immediately collapse when an attached building is removed. That's good. Water containers can collect falling droplets. That is so clever. I love that. I use my water container a lot in conjunction with my canteen. That's so cool because you could place, your water container in a spot where you know a droplet's going to fall into it and it'll just automatically fill. That's great. The player can now drink from water containers while holding weapons. Stairs may now be embedded in the ground like scaffolds and ramps. That is awesome. That actually pissed me off that I couldn't do that. That that building anyway is a little frustrating in this game, and that's just makes it a lot better. Walls that are sandwiched above by two floors will have their crenellation suppressed. Now, a crenellation is like an opening at the top, kind of like where you might shoot from or something, and it's gonna basically get rid of the openings so it becomes a wall, so you can't leave it in as part of your structure. It'll only be at the top of the structure like it's supposed to be. The camera will slide to the correct position when interacting with a weapon wall mount. Okay. Tweaked the placed position of the weapon wall mount to be more centered. Okay. Performance. Better windowed full screen performance in Windows versions of the game. Better UI inventory GPU performance. Now that doesn't sound like a big deal. That really is a big deal. That is going to smooth things out for a huge part of the game. Significant load game time improvement for games with larger bases. Now, I didn't really notice a problem with that, but my computer's pretty fast, so maybe other people were having an issue with that, but that's great to see. Better GPU performance during nighttime. Again, I didn't notice a problem with that, but it's always really good to see any significant performance tweaks. And finally, we have other. The voice chat activation setting is now properly reapplied when entering a game. Scab Flavor Scheme collectibles now have a pulsing light and are slightly bigger to make them more noticeable. Now, that they were ridiculously small and hard to notice. That is going to be that's a significant change. That's really cool. I can't wait to see that. Hedge berries now float in water. That was so frustrating, man. Dropping them into the water and then not being able to interact with them. I kept trying to push them out of the water, and I think I got it to work one time, just one time. Every other time it was just a gone berry. Ants now find and store lost ice caps. Interesting. That's really interesting. Soldier ants can now properly drop ant heads as loot. Nice. Tall, woody weeds are now displayed as husky weed. Okay. Dandelions and husky weed both still supply weed stems. Husky weed now respawns. That's great because there was a significant lack of stems to be had when you're trying to collect just that item. That was pretty frustrating. Ants will not be happy if you take their eggs. That is awesome. That's great. The resource analyzer now animates when analyzing. That is going to be really cool to see. And a couple of new smoothies can be whipped up at the smoothie station. So that was a changelog for the August update, patch 0.2.0. It looks like it's going to be a pretty significant one with a lot of new content, and you're going to see a lot of new content from me, so keep an eye out for that. It was good to see you guys. I'll see you in the next one, and as always, peace.